Guys, and welcome back to another video on my channel. This week I'm trying to do something new, so I will try and test this out as a screen recording so I can react and comment on other videos. As you all know, I've done a cost of living in London video, which you can check down in the description below. Obviously I've done that one as an individual, so I thought I'd do something more recent. As you can see, I've just put in cost of living in London there, and I saw Ashika's video, which is I think more for like a family perspective for cost of living. So let's see what she has to say.
Officially been in the UK for about a month now, and while moving to a new place definitely comes with a lot of different challenges. Managing your expenses is probably a very big challenge that most people face and will continue to face as time goes by. So this video today is all about what you can expect to pay in your first month in the UK as soon as you move here, what the kind of expenses you're looking at, what you should budget for, and what you should keep in mind.
I like the intro there.
Hi guys, this is Ashika, and if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, please do so. Right, and they've been driving her nuts. There's also Hazel. These costs are specific to us, but you could take them as a yardstick for what you can expect when you move here. The first bucket is groceries, which is probably where you're going to make most of your purchases in terms of volume and in terms of value. Most often than not.
Okay, I agree with groceries, but I think this is a very different to everyone. As I said, I was doing for a individual, and this is probably for a family. So let's see how this compares.
Prefer to pick up our groceries from either Sainsbury's or Lidl, simply because they are the closest grocery stores to our houses, and they're not grocery stores, to be very honest, they're supermarkets, and they tend to have everything we need. We have been trying to cook most of our meals in-house, so we try and make an effort to get as many groceries as possible so we don't end up ordering in or eating out. Apart from these two, we have also been visiting other supermarkets or grocery stores which are more of spur of the moment purchases. Mostly when you're traveling, when you're going to the train station, or when you're traveling to a nearby town, and then you just stop by whatever is close by. For the month until now, we have spent £282 just on groceries. Now,
okay, now that's reasonable. I think obviously I watched the video before, but I think she mentioned for a three people family. So that's quite reasonable for a month. 282. I think I spend about the same for myself buying stuff. Maybe 200 I spend, but yeah, that's quite reasonable. Honestly, well done.
Number is larger than what we would have anticipated, but like I said earlier, we're trying to keep as much as we can at home so we don't end up ordering from the outside. But the other thing is, we honestly shop for only 3 to 4 days at a stretch, mostly because we've been living out of Airbnbs and we didn't want to have to lug around food.
Right. So living out of Airbnbs while you're trying to find your accommodation is one of the biggest mistakes that one can make in terms of financially, because I think I've mentioned it in some of my videos before, actually, in 5 things you need to consider before moving to London, and this is like the major cost, which probably you'll see in this video. But definitely, if you're planning to come to London, sort out your accommodation before you come here. Otherwise, you're going to spend a lot of money on Airbnbs, as she said, or hotels or whatever.
Groceries while we moved from one Airbnb to another. So if you have managed to find a place as soon as you move to the UK, you can expect this number to be slightly more inflated than ours. Now coming to actually eating out, it's not like we didn't eat out at all. I've always been a very big fan of eating out, and so.
Right, eating out, that's a cool subject. I think she's talking about like the first month. Yeah, that's the first month when you move in. So there are a couple of bits which you can kind of plan ahead so you don't have these expenses. But in terms of eating out, probably, yeah, you want to go and check out all the places because it's all new.
So what we definitely wanted to do was try out the local cuisine. So we have had our fair share of restaurants and pubs that we visited. And in most cases, they have been meals out of convenience. So if we went to Reading, for instance, we would stop by in a restaurant at Reading and pick up a meal there, or if we
Yeah, so Reading is a small town nearby, near London. It's a bit outside, it's west of London. So, generally speaking, when you go a bit further out, the prices for eating out should be slightly less than what you get to pay in London, but it's not always it's not necessarily the truth. It can be very pricey as well.
to Harrow or if we went to London, we'd usually eat there if we expected it to get late while coming back. And mostly because of this, we've tried a bunch of Italian places. We've tried some.
That looks really nice. I don't know what's that, but that looks really nice. Maybe pizza with pumpkin? Oh.
Sushi, we've tried some fish and chips. Excellent meals, but slightly heavy on the pocket. So, all in all, we have spent about £380 just on eating out in the past one.
Okay, past 1 month, 380 for 3 people eating out. Again, I don't think that's too bad. I mean, obviously, if it's your first month in UK, it might seem like a lot, but 380 is actually within reason. It's within reason, definitely.
The big chunk comes in terms of transport. Most people tend to take either the train or a bus while traveling either within the town or between towns and London. For most part of it, our costs wouldn't have been so high, but we had to take a couple of cabs, especially while we moved from one Airbnb to another because we had a lot of luggage with us. And most of the cabs were really expensive. The cab from the airport to our first house in London was about £150. The cab from London to Maidenhead when we moved to our first Airbnb in Maidenhead was about £130.
The black cabs, obviously, I think they're slightly more expensive on long routes like this from airport to a certain place. In most cases, I'd definitely suggest an Uber or a Bolt, which is a similar app to Uber, and there is also Free Now app, which is called. However, I wouldn't recommend these for all the time. I would just recommend them for like a big route that you're going. Otherwise, they tend to charge like a lot more when it's like very busy on the streets in rush hours. So they just like do whatever price they want basically. So it's not really fair. Black cabs are fine if you do like a small route, but if you're going from the airport to London or somewhere like 40-minute drive, 1 hour drive, you can always use these apps and get some promo discount codes if it's for a one-off. So that's quite good.
So that actually made the bulk of the expenditure as far as transport was concerned. We also traveled quite a bit and sometimes even between towns and between counties because we were looking for a house initially. So the costs did come to a lot more than we had expected initially. And just
Yes, of course. You have, well, obviously, this is just my advice. You don't come here to stay in Airbnb and try to sort out your accommodation because it's going to be costly. And yes, the transport is going to cost you from one place to another if you want to go and have a look at the house before you make the deal, even if it's just for rent. So that is a big, big, big note. If you're watching this video up to here, you have to sort out your accommodation before you come because it's going to cost you a lot.
1 month, our transport expenses alone were £570.
Yeah, so that's again, if you calculate it per person, it should be around 180 on average per month if you're taking like buses and tubes. I think there is a certain limit if you're using the Oyster card. Is a card which is called that you can use just to top up and use public transport. I think the maximum they can charge you on that is £12 throughout for the whole day basically. So you can literally drive around the city all the time. But if yeah, I'm guessing that's for 3 people, 570 is quite a lot. And obviously, if you're by yourself, you can cycle, but 3 people also, well, yeah, if you 3 people, you can also cycle. There is these Santander bikes which you can rent for like £1, but I guess it's not as safe if you don't know the city, if it's not familiar. Um, as I said, it took me 2 years before I even start cycling. So yeah, I mean that's about right, 570. but you could have done a virtual viewing on the houses or something. That's still a lot for the first month for transport.
In our case, another bulk component of the cost came in terms of the Airbnb. The Airbnb rate we set for ourselves was somewhere between 100 and 100.
Red flag, accommodation, red flag.
£120 per day, and we were looking at a total of about 40 to 45 days. There were also some early check-ins and some.
So 40 days of Airbnb, like that's a lot. That's even you're lucky that you found that quickly, because obviously rental properties are very fast paced, so even if you find something that you like, you have to act on it very quickly. So that's very lucky to find something in within 40 days in the city. That's very good.
Checkouts because we had to manage between the houses that we were staying in. So just as far as the Airbnbs were concerned, we were looking at about £4,400. Another
Need a moment for that. 4,400. That's around 2 months of full rent in a maybe 3-bedroom property a bit further out, or 2-bedroom property on the commutable areas in London. So yeah, that's a big hit there.
Small cost, but something you should keep in mind is the cost for your SIMs, for your mobile SIMs. While we got our SIMs free when we visited the VFS office in Bangalore, what we did have to do was top up because we ran out of data, because when we were traveling, there was a very limited data offer.
So with the SIMs, I think there's some universal ones wherever you like a mobile or something like that. I think that's in all countries, but make sure you don't top up. Make sure you make like a monthly like a contract where you can do like for £10 or £15, and you have like limitless minutes and data, because you need data probably when you come in for the first time. You definitely need data and someone to call, to be able to call. I mean, it's not end of the world. You can always ask someone on the street and they'll give you some help and guidance. But yeah, that's probably an advice I'd give you for the SIM.
On all of these packs.
That's if you're coming out of Europe. If you're coming from a European country, I think you can call straight away with whatever you have.
So the top ups that I did was about £6 for my phone. And finally, the last chunk, and one of the biggest chunks, actually probably the biggest chunk, was in terms of our house. So we finally put in an offer on a house, and the offer just came through today, and we're very excited. But it does make up for a very, very big cost component. So like I mentioned in the previous video, you have to place a holding deposit, a security deposit, and pay your first month's rent up in advance. Another thing to bear in mind is that because we've not moved into our house yet, we've not had to furnish our house. So a huge component of cost is missing because of that. But
again, if you're moving into rental property, you do want to get a furnished property. It is not much different in a price. You can find very decent, like reasonably decent properties which are furnished, because if you're in a rental property, you don't really want to buy your stuff, and then if you're thinking long term when you're moving, eventually if you buy, or like if you're moving, you need to like get stuff in a truck, like fridge, freezer, stuff like that. So that's a bit harassing to do. I mean, it's annoying for me, but it's just my perspective. It doesn't have to be like that, but I think if you can find really good houses for rental which are furnished, so you don't have to spend extra cost on that.
in case you do manage to find a house before a month is completed, you're going to also have to factor in furnishing your entire house with all of the furniture and the soft furnishings. So please do keep that cost in mind as well. And apart from that, there's also a bunch of other costs that will be coming in terms of utility costs, in terms of council tax, television.
Yeah, especially now with the energy prices are going up. That's crazy. And yeah, council tax you pay basically to every borough wherever you move in. It's something that I joke about all the time. You just pay council tax because you breathe in London, because you just like stay in this city. You have to like pay council tax.
Costs. So that's a different ball game altogether. hopefully next week when I share with you the video on our new house. I will also take you through all the costs you can expect as soon as you move into your first house, and some hacks as well for how you can work around it.
That'd be fun to see. There we go. Let's do a subscribe there. Kind of like this video, so let's do a like.
Just for the house, for the new house that we're going to be moving to, we've spent until now a total of £3,200.
Yeah, that makes sense because you have to pay a deposit, and then you have to pay your rent up front. So I'm guessing that's a house of 1,600, maybe a 2 or a 3 bedroom house, depending on obviously the area. I didn't catch which area they got the house, but sounds about right.
Now, because the cost of a house depends entirely on what kind of house you want, I'm going to take that out of the equation for just a moment now. So if you keep in mind all of your transportation, your grocery costs, your expenditure on food, eating outside, your small petty expenditures, including the little cash that we withdrew. So that value without any house deposits is £5,885 in our case.
What was that again? 5,800. Let's
grocery costs, your expenditure on food, eating outside.
Oh, basically everything she said so far. Yeah, okay, that's 580. That's a lot.
Small petty expenditures, including the little cash.
440 was just for the Airbnb, so if you take that out, it's okay.
We withdrew. So that value without any house deposits is £5,885 in our case. And if you add in the house deposit, which most of you will do if you do consider moving to the UK, you'll have to book a house, you'll have to pay the security deposit, and you'll have to pay the holding deposit. You'll be looking at a number close to £9,085.
Okay, fair enough. Well, yeah, those numbers, most of them are all like you kind of have to pay for that. But if you take the equation of the Airbnb, if you kind of plan that ahead and sort of your accommodation before you come in and spend on Airbnb, that's like half of it. So about 4,500 maybe they would have spent, which like it's 50% less. So
that's a lot. Now, these costs are specific to us, and a lot of you might not have some of these components or might have more. Like, for instance, in case you're planning on buying a car, you'll have to factor that in.
Well, yeah, if you're a family, you probably need a car. But if you live by yourself or with just another partner, I don't think you need a car for London, because you can get pretty much everywhere cycling, and the transport link within the city are just like second to none.
In case you plan on buying property, in case your child plans to get into school, you'll also have to factor these costs in. So while you are budgeting for your move, do keep these points in mind. So I hope this video has given you a rough idea of how much your expenditure is going to be when you first move to the UK, especially with a family of 3. So that's about it for this.
There we go, family of 3. Okay, that was very informative video. Let's put a comment there for Annika. Annika, great video. I just did a reaction on it. It will be published on my channel Monday, 11th October, 12 p.m. Keep up with the good content. Great. Alright guys, so that was it. That's just wanted to test this option out, but here we go. I found this channel, so I kind of like, oh sorry, it's Ashika. Oh my god, that's embarrassing. I just did Annika there. That is embarrassing. What an idiot I am. That's, oh my god. There we go. So I just did this video to test this option out, but I kind of like the channel, so I've subscribed. Obviously everything related to UK and London is good to hear it from multiple sources. So if you in sources So if you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments below, and see you all next week. Cheers.